welcome to another Saturday night and taking it to the nub. I'm your host, Boston Jimmy. My co-host, Quentin, is on the road somewhere, so I'm hoping he chimes in. But tonight, I have a very special set of guests. Not just one, not a couple. I got three. And no, they are not a consumer panel. They are what I call the 262 Cigar Crew. Now, if you don't know 262 Cigars, you're going to learn about them in a minute. Let me bring in Ryan, Gabrielle, and Madison to the show. And while they're coming in, just let you know I'm smoking a 262 Paradigm. And I'll just start the show off real quick of with the three panelists. What am I smoking here? What is the Paradigm?
Paradigm is the Modafina Maduro.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites.
And only in one Vitola?
No.
No.
No?
Yeah,
Ryan
for
said.
now it's limited on sizes, but we're coming out with every size that Clint originally had and some new ones as well.
Good. All right, so let's go around the room real fast because I don't think everybody knows everybody. So you know me, I'm Boston Jimmy. I run this thing. Welcome to Taking It to the Nub. I'm going to go from the top around. Although tonight's show is about 262 Cigars, there is the crew that help each other to make success across the board. We'll start with Ryan Rodriguez. Ryan, quickly introduce yourself.
My name is Ryan Rodriguez, and I'm the owner of Ohana Cigars and Left Hand Cigars, and I'm currently working with Madison Money and Gabe on a project with 262 and Ohana. So that's my
Sure, we'll get into that a little later in the show. Thank you. Gabrielle?
Gabriel Seaman, here from Texas. Used to work at the Underground. Now I'm working with Madison Money on the 262 Cigars. I'm doing a lot of the back end work, a little bit of the blend help, and then also helping out with Ohana Nui, which means helping Ohana left hand whenever they need the hand, and just helping everybody get everything going.
All right. And then we'll go to the money guy, I guess.
Yeah, what's up? I'm Madison Money, one of the owners of 262 and one of the owners of Ohana Nui. I mean, definitely teamwork in all aspects, helping with blending, accounting, whatever needs to be done. But yeah, heading up 262 and working along Ryan and Gabe with Ohana and Ohana Nui.
Good. Thank you. Let's talk about the basics. You guys, I know Fort Worth, Texas, the home of one of my most favorite lounges in the whole country is the Underground Cigar Lounge. I mean, anybody that's not part of the Underground, get on the Underground group. These guys are great. If you ever get a chance to get down to Fort Worth or Dallas area, if you don't go to the Underground, you're like missing out on a big opportunity of amazing people and a beautiful environment. Now that they have the new shop, because the old shop was eclectic, it was weird, but it was still the Underground. This one has a vibe.
Yeah, this one's pretty sweet. Great staff, man. They taught me just about everything. So
The 262 number, some people will go through and see a shield or a star and they're like, okay, maybe Dallas, maybe somewhere else. They don't know who you are. 262, it's like an area code. No, it's not. What does 262 stand for?
it's a reference to the date and year that JFK signed the Cuban trade embargo, February of 1962, and the legend behind it. The day before he signed, he sent out one of his top execs to procure as many his favorite Cuban cigars as he could. And once, I think he got about 1,200 or so. brought him back to JFK, and then he put his signature on the embargo, signed the document. Couldn't out trade with Cuba, getting his before anybody else could, and outlawing it.
Now, when you were thinking about coming up with the name of a cigar brand, was this like the first thing out of your head, or did you guys kind of try to think about a name of a brand? You know, what was, you know, was this it from the moment you started talking about opening a brand? 262.
Well, we acquired 262 from Clint Aaron. It was originally owned by Clint. I think he had it probably founded it back in 08, maybe 09.
Mm-hmm.
I think originally it was going to be Revolutionary Cigars, but there was some sort of I'm not really sure what happened there, but maybe borderline cease and desist of sorts. So they settled on 262.
Very good. So you guys actually acquired the company from Clint and kept the name. Have you expanded the line from what he originally had?
We plan to. We're hoping by February of TPE 2023. Gabe actually is working on a blend that we got to try back in March at NFG 22, and really loved it. But the main core, the main offerings or facings are the ideology, allegiance, revere, and paradigm. So yeah, for now the original 4 that Clint came out with is what we're running with, and currently reblending at Tabacalera Pajes in Nicaragua.
Okay. What is your contribution now, Ryan, to this project?
I'm helping them blend at Tabacalera Pajes and helping with whatever they need help with, trying to get 262, get them going again, and as well as Ohana too. Just kind of, it made sense for us to work together and grow together, and it's gonna be something great, exciting. So that's my part, I guess.
Yeah,
And
what we
also,
lack in experience, he brings up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, he knows, like I said, he knows some leaf, he knows some blending. I've always enjoyed his products. What are you hoping to do in your first
My sound, I think my sound just went out. There we go.
Well, what are you hoping to do in your
Yes, sir.
first blend? That could be my internet. You have different blends you're going to be coming out with. What is, like, you don't have to divulge the blend, but what are you looking to get as far as a profile?
Are you talking to me right now, or I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Cut in and out.
You're-
As far as a profile for the 262,
Yeah, a
Just going
profile
over
for the
things.
new blends, not necessarily the recipe, but what are you trying to
yeah.
put in front of a customer, you know, size wise and flavor wise?
Well, first off, we're just right now we're just recreating the sizes that were already in existence and working on consistency and trying to make sure that the cigars come out, you know, good quality cigar, no draw problems, no issues at all that large audience is going to truly enjoy. Enjoyable experience. We have access to tobacco now that we didn't have access to before. So, and plenty of it. So we don't have to worry about consistency or any issues that either company has faced before. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
So you're able to get your hands on, I mean, you're probably paying prices that you have to pay, but you have access to.
I have access to every
About
single kind of tobacco you can imagine. Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yeah,
so you can get some San Andreas.
Oh yeah. Got
You
plenty
got to
of
give
that.
those
Got all of
guys
it.
over in Providencia a call for me, and
I can
tell
do
them you
that.
know where to get the San Andreas, so you can take care of Boston Jimmy's cigars again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah, I
that.
said it publicly. Go make it happen.
Yeah, they live a
I
stone's
can do
throw
that.
away, probably like 20 minutes away. So we can definitely rattle the cage a bit, get them going.
Yeah. I'll be up there in September. Maybe we could all hang out at Ray's house and swim in the pool and talk deals.
There we go.
Real
So,
fun.
Probably Gabe's. That's Gabe's line of business. Let's go talk deals.
Yeah.
So Gabriel, are you like part of the face of this brand now as it goes forward? Are you gonna get out there and work the shops?
Oh yeah, as much as possible. Pretty fortunate with my day job to be able to have some time during the week to spend on it. So I'll be one of the ones people can talk to kind of on the regular, and hopefully get out there more and more as things progress. It's been super helpful having the partnerships that we have, but I hope to be more involved as we go forward for sure.
Now, is your growth plan is it going to be focused on Texas, or are you going to go are we tapping into Ryan's distribution model and the shops that Ryan's are in? How are you going to handle your initial growth and focus?
It's going to be pretty symbiotic. Clinton is actually still kind of around as our uncle in the background as well to help us as we get the blends back in boxes and get all the Vitolas back in stock. To go back to those core few stores that helped him, he was big with the guys that did the Tennessee tweet ups, as well as a lot of the East Coast, still having 2 shops on the East Coast himself. So he will definitely be helping us get back in those. And then, yeah, of course, Texas is always a big focus just because, you got 95 shops in North Texas right now, probably just shy of 200 in the whole state. So it's always a focus.
That's a good way to focus and then branch out. I'm sure, once you got Texas, you got Oklahoma, and you got, because people start hearing about it. And of course, you get your sister state, Florida,
Yeah, we were actually supposed to be in Florida right now for an event, but it was postponed. So definitely plan on heading to Florida for sure.
Where was that going to be?
It was called Smoking in the Panhandle in Navarre County, Florida, or Navarre Beach. It was the 28th to the 30th.
You said Brevard Beach?
Navarre with the N.
Oh, Navarre.
Close.
The Panhandle.
Yeah.
Okay, Navarre Beach. Right. Okay.
Smoking in the Panhandle, close to Fort Walton.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Very
definitely
nice
gonna cater
place.
to Texas first. Big backyard. So, but yeah, also tapping into Ryan's distribution.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And then slow grow. I mean, do you?
Yeah.
Your factory's going to be able, if this was to take off for you, you're not going to death spike yourself by not being able to produce at the same levels of quality. You have that ability.
Yeah, right now, man, we're with Raymond Pajes, and we're probably the smallest orders that he has. He produces quite a bit, just banging cigars for numerous other brands, and yeah, we're on the low end. I don't think we could actually get ahead of ourselves working with this guy.
A question from the audience. It's a question that I could answer, but I'm going to let one of you guys answer it. Why do cigar bands or labels, why are they hard to pull off? How come they just don't pull right off? And I know some are beautiful. You take it, you can pull them.
Are they?
Others, you got to tear the thing and you're ripping your wrapper. What causes that?
Man, from ours, it's been the person that put it on. Maybe too much glue, I'd imagine. But the Allegiance is notorious for having a band that it starts off 3 inches, and by the time you're done peeling it off, it's about a foot long. You just spiral tear it off. So I'd imagine too much glue, maybe the paper. Not really sure, actually. Don't have a solid answer to that. But the Allegiance for us is notorious for hanging on for dear life. It's kind of a beast to pull off.
Yeah, it's a big sleeve that's on that.
Oh, yeah.
I usually just slide it off the cigar.
Yeah,
Structural.
it's
The structural band.
a very unique band. The size-wise, I should say, it's like the equivalent of having 3 bands. So
Mm-hmm.
that that was one of our discussions on whether or not we should keep it that length or not. And after a while, it just grew on me. I was like, I don't see another band out there that's 75% the cigar. But yeah, there's something unique about it that I just really dig. And so we all kind of agreed, Gabe and I, to leave it and run with it. But yeah, hopefully we'll dial back that glue or pectin or whatever they're using at the factory to put that on. Because I've heard that complaint quite a bit. It will not come off.
I don't think that those problems will persist with the new stuff.
If that's the biggest complaint about the cigar, I'll take it. But we'll work
I was
on
going
that,
to
though.
say,
Yeah.
right.
It could be worse.
That's the problem with your cigar. Now, but don't get me wrong. In my review system, I deduct point, maybe 2, depends. A point if it's too hard to take off, and 2 points if I'm taking it off, I tear the wrapper. And I should probably say 3 points on that, because I'm going to tell you what, you get into that point of the cigar, you're at the sweet spot of the cigar when you're taking that band off. All right. Everything is, if that cigar is really good, it is now completely blended and working and giving you pleasure. And now you go like this and go to tear that band off, and it doesn't pop right off, and you're digging. And next thing you know, you're pressing and it cracks, and you're like, just the cigar up, and the guy's pissed off or the girl's pissed off.
Yeah, luckily with Raymond, our new factory, we won't have to worry about it too much. I was test driving one of the new allegiances that have been reblended, and the band came off a little bit better. I should say a lot better, but no damage to the cigar, most importantly. So
having the long band, right? I would think is a little harder, because even if you just put a little bit of glue, so when you got a regular band, you just put a dab right on the edge, you close it over, and it's done. When you do that, you got to worry about it putting too much, and then it presses out and it gets on the wrapper, right? So it's a different application.
Different type of beast, that's for sure. But so far so good. The folks that are reblended and banding doing a pretty good job. So no complaints from my end on the new stuff. I'm excited for folks to try it once it's ready to go.
Now you're using this factory to blend all the original blends.
Yeah,
you have a different source of leaf, right?
Yeah, different source. Also, just to differentiate. We could have taken 262, acquired it, just replicate it, stay at the same factory, but we honestly just wanted to branch out and get away from the kind of go your own with it. Also, the sourcing of tobacco, like Ryan mentioned, we have access to anything we want. Raymond is a very well-versed individual. He used to work at the AJ factory, AJ Fernandez. I think he was like number 3 guy. He's also brother-in-law with AJ Fernandez. So he's well-equipped to get us really whatever we want. But we went with him because the test blends that he was giving us, the samples of just really any cigar, it wasn't necessarily the blends that we were pining for at the moment, but they were all killer. They were all amazing. It was really bizarre, actually. When he finally gave us samples of our blends that we were reblending, I looked at Ryan and I'm like, aren't we supposed to make corrections on these? Like, aren't we, I don't want to change a thing. That's how good they were. They were mind-blowingly amazing for, here's your first run of sample cigars from us. We're like, oh, okay, wow. These are phenomenal, actually.
Now, so are you saying you're not tweaking what he's giving you on the new blends, but on the original blends, did you tweak anything on them? Are you doing any adjustments in the blend, or are you leaving the blend based on the leaf content the same?
I mean, it's a couple of adjustments for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Just had to, because we're using different tobaccos. So, but everything should taste a little bit more refined, more flavor. It's going to be something completely different than before. It's going to be similar but different. I think anybody who likes the original 262 blends is going to love what we have coming out now. So
That's what I'm looking for. Because I figure you get 3 cigar guys together that have smoked 262s and decided to buy the company. All right. Which is, you could have had a lot of companies maybe you could have went after, but this was the one you wanted. So you know their blend, but you probably said to yourself, if only it had just this in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you have control over that. Fantastic.
Yeah, Gabe wanted to add like a spicier kick to it, and so that's kind of what we were aiming for in the Revere. So that'll come out more strength, a little more spice kick to it than what folks are used to.
Well, that'll be a change.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest changes are just, but like Ryan said, because we had to for the tobacco, but also, we're working off 3 to 5 year old stock that we're comparing it to right now. So that's a pretty high bar for a fresh cigar. And for the blends to be like just 99% there the first time they come out of the blender's hand, it's been impressive. Ryan going down there for several weeks and working side by side with him definitely helped. But we're super happy with the way they're coming out.
I'm going to take a quick break here. We're going to do a shout out to the sponsors. And when we come back, we'll dig a little more into 262. And then we're going to learn a little more about the 3 brothers that run 262. So today's show is brought to you by Bocock Cigars. Bocock Brothers Cigars is a new and active brand founded by 2 Honduran brothers, Bryant and Douglas Bocock. The brand zeroes in on those folks that are looking for easy-to-smoke cigars inspired by unusual circumstances. Very importantly named after the very interesting and imitable last name, Bocock. You look at the brand itself, it's a rooster with a red bow tie. So that's their thing. Anyway, they're featuring right now their latest new cigar, the Signature Edition, with an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, a Nicaraguan Habano binder, and a Nicaraguan filler, coming in 3 popular formats, Robusto, Toro, and Gordo, and made down at AJ Fernandez's factory in Nicaragua. So you can check out Bocock Cigars at www.bocockbrothers.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Platinum Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova is a family-owned and operated premium cigar company. Only the highest vintage tobacco and the most skilled hand workmanship go into the making of each Platinum Nova cigar, resulting in a timeless blend of art and craftsmanship. The Nova brand and the family's work are a tribute and an honor to their grandfather, to always remember him and his infinite passion for the finest cigars. Their love for cigars started with their grandfather, a dedicated master blender and entrepreneur in the cigar industry. So the next time you're looking for an exquisite cigar experience, pick up a Platinum Nova. You can check them out at www.novacigar.com and on their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter channel.
Get ready, because Drew Estate is back and better than ever, with a party so big that only the Lone Star State can contain it. Music, spirits, mouth-watering barbecue, cigars galore, and so much more. It'll be the most epic shindig there ever was. Barn Smoker presents Savage Feast, October 22nd at the South Fork Ranch, Dallas, Texas. Get your tickets now at barnsmoker.com.
Yeah, you definitely want to go to the Barn Smokers this year if you're a Drew Estate fan. They pulled out all the stops, and of course, the big one down at the South Fork Ranch down in your neighborhood is going to be off the rails. That's all I know. My folks at Drew Estate have told me that this is going to be an event that is unlike any other cigar event anybody's ever been to. So thank you, Drew Estate, for that sponsorship. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at the Cigar Clowns Facebook page. The Cigar Clowns is a Facebook group that invites you to come along on their journey to find the perfect cigar. I know. There's no such thing as a perfect cigar. That's why the journey is so much fun. If you're lucky enough to get your hands on one of their limited releases, you know what's up. If you haven't had one, stay tuned to the page, and when a run drops, they go quickly. These guys go into humidors. They find things that have been laying around. They're very, very short runs, but when they pick them, they do it with a whole panel, and they do it publicly to select the cigar that's going to get the next clown band on it. So it's a very tedious process to put out the greatest cigars, but when they're done, and they really go fast. Good conversation, great people, and smoking cigars. Why wouldn't you want to join? They welcome all brothers and sisters of the leaf to share the same love as they do for cigars. You could check them out on Cigar Clowns on Facebook. Join the group. Lastly, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Rodriguez Cigars. The year was 1947, and the Rodriguez family began the masterful art of cultivating tobacco on their private plantation in the town of Siguane, Cuba. In 1952, La Finca Common Cedar employed over 20 workers and grew over 120,000 pounds of tobacco annually. 8 years later, the Cuban government nationalized the private plantation, and the Rodriguez family was forced to immigrate to the United States. In 1971, the family found a new beginning on the beautiful island of Key West, and in 1984 established the Rodriguez Cigar Factory. That factory stands as the oldest cigar manufacturer in the Florida Keys, and it preserves the historical cigar manufacturing industry that began in Key West in 1831. As the years passed, of course, new generations of family members expanded operations. They moved them over to Nicaragua for a premium line, and they're now proud to be working with some of the finest tobacco in the world. Rodriguez cigars are exclusively constructed with vintage leaves that have been hand-selected, aged, and constructed through the traditional Cuban manufacturing process. So if you're ever in Key West, check out Rodriguez Cigars. You can check them out at www.rodriguezcigarskeywest.com. It's the only place I would go in Key West for a cigar. With that, let's come back to the 262 crew. All right.
It was really good. You're really good at that.
I have a lot of practice in that segment.
Nicely done.
I still make a couple of errors as I get it going, but it gets all fixed in the post production. So when it goes on YouTube, you don't see all the glitches.
Well played.
So Gabriel, as the guy who worked in retail, understand the consumer side of the house, what would you say you bring to the table based on the consumer feedback in general, not on 262 cigars, but just of what they like? What would you say consumers' top three wrappers that they love?
Top three wrappers. It's still going to be Connecticut, number one always. Habano, and generally, even though it's not really a wrapper, Maduros would probably take third. It's more of a color than a wrapper, but kind of slides in there. And as far as what I bring, it's just a lot of those conversations. Working in the smaller retailers, then I went to work at Casa de Monte Cristo. Worked with them as they expanded from 6 stores to almost 16 stores in a very short period. Lots of training, lots of traveling the country and meeting the cigar smoker. And just a lot of that data that I learned along the way is you take over a few humidors and you do some inventory of, one of the shops in Boca had been a Davidoff account for almost 50 years. So the inventory that he had was just incredible, and the experience of getting to go through it. And a lot of that just plays into the knowledge base that I have to answer those questions when those people come up and go, okay, I don't know anything about 262 cigars, but I like bopping about. Tell me which one I should try. And those are the kind of conversations that I tend to excel at. Just bringing that energy, bringing that experience, cutting and lighting, helping people learn those things if it's their first time as well. Just a whole part of it's what I enjoyed, interacting with the consumer on that level. and getting to bring them on the journey of cigars, now 262 and Ohana specifically.
Now, with that knowledge and hearing from Gabriel that Connecticut is going to be at the top of the line, and you're talking Connecticut shade, I imagine.
Right.
Ryan, is there a 262 Connecticut that you're going to be coming out with?
Not in the immediate future, but yes, something later on down the line, but no, not right now.
I'd love to
Yeah,
see
nothing
your-
at the moment. Ryan actually, he helps us in 262, but he mainly owner operates Ohana. And so my greenhorn or lack of knowledge that I drop, he definitely picks up the slack and helps us. So when it came to Nicaragua and heading out there, visiting that factory, he was out there for a lot of weeks, helping with 262, but also working on Ohana. So
Sure.
for releases, that's usually derived from Gabe and I for 262, which is why we tried to formulate this other brand, Ohana Nui, so that we could also use Ryan's expertise in that as well. Coming up with things that don't fit in our respective portfolios, like bourbon barrel aged cigars and things of that nature. That is Ryan's brainchild of sorts.
You working with a distiller?
Several.
Yeah, through Ryan's contacts, he got us involved in the Texas Whiskey Fest. I forget, might have been April in Austin, Texas. And so Ohana was the feature. Everybody wanted the bourbon barrel aged cigar. In Texas, there's a distillery called Balcones, and they use the 100 proof rye whiskey barrels to age these Ohana cigars in. And they gave it a really fun name called the Drunk Uncle. And it's a phenomenal cigar. I mean, we're talking like beginner to aficionado can enjoy this cigar. You don't even have to smoke cigars to get down on this. I mean, it definitely smells like bourbon, but the flavors you get are super chocolate forward. He even actually recently released the chocolate bar by Ohana at the Underground, and that was dynamite, getting lots of great reviews and feedback on that. But that's what caught my attention with Ryan was, outside of me being a huge Ohana freak fan already, I got my hands on one of these bourbon barrel aged cigars back in, I think, 2019, maybe 2018. He did an exclusive release for Rar and Sons Brewery called the Rargar. And that cigar was aged in beer barrels. And so I was like, man, I would love to, do one of these with 262, have our own release someday. And the one that I have in mind is with Bad Martha Brewery in Edgartown, Massachusetts. I think the Revere would do well with that. And also a brewery here in Texas, and that's where Ryan just came into play. He got all the distillers know who Ryan is. They all want to try these bourbon barrel projects and wine barrel age. Like he's definitely got a unique craft for making this type of project, knock him out of the park. But yeah, when we were at Texas Whiskey Fest in April, I mean that was the cigar that everybody wanted. They were coming out left and right to get their hands on it. It's a damn fine cigar. So
when you barrel age something, Ryan, are you barrel aging the finished cigars, or are you barrel aging the tobacco that goes in the cigars?
I've tried several different ways, but the way that works the best as far as the cigar or maintaining the proper profile is by barrel aging the final cigar.
Final cigar with the wrapper, so that it just
Yes,
absorbs
sir.
that wrapper, just absorbs that aroma,
Yes, sir.
flavors out of
It's
the
a
barrel.
way they kind of rehumidify with it. It's no infusion process or anything like that. It's a straight barrel. So
It's the natural absorption of what's around
yes,
it.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Are you looking to take this brand now to a national level,
Of course. Yes, sir.
right? And what do you think about an international level at the future? Do you think they have the same palate for cigars that Americans do that love your cigars?
I think that a lot of them do. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people all over the world, and they really like the barrel aged cigars and everything else that we've been putting out. So definitely we're looking into getting into the international market as well.
Well, you've got your cigars in Hawaii,
Correct.
right? So the barrel ages are there too.
Yes, sir.
So that's a big tourist area. So you're getting people from all over the country and all over the world coming
Right.
in. If they like cigars, they may be smoking one of yours for the first time because it's there.
Yeah.
It's not like having it in the middle of, middle of Wisconsin or Indiana or someplace where you don't get the tremendous international tourism coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
interesting.
sir.
So, first customer out of the box, underground.
Most likely. We're currently in the underground now. They gave us like a red carpet. They rolled it out for us, and so yeah, I don't have really any plans to release it anywhere else first outside of the underground. Yeah, we'll always stay loyal to them. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, definitely branch out for sure. But yeah, first box, definitely go to the underground.
And do you
100%.
have something new that you're going to have at NFG 23?
Well,
Always.
yes.
You don't have to
Off,
talk about it.
yeah, off the top of the dome, I don't know how much we can chat about, but yes, absolutely. This past year, I think it was our second year in a row, or actually this past year was our third year in a row. And I was chatting with Gabe. I was like, man, we need something new, something different, like just an exclusive release for this fest. And we got to come up with something. And so, Gabe got to work and thus created the Morning Wood. But yeah, I was like, man, I mean, as a consumer myself, purveyor of the leaf, I love everything.
You got to
smoke
be
everything
18
under
or
the
older
sun.
to buy that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was like, man, we got to bring something else to the table outside of just our core, like let's have fun with it. Let's, and yeah, he crushed it with the Morning Wood. It's pretty potent. The Morning Wood tag kind of gives it like the wrong idea. It's definitely not a morning smoke. Like don't
Oh, you
make
don't
it
get any
like this.
cream. You don't get any creaminess out of it.
There is, but there's enough strength that will knock you on your ass. So it's yeah, toasted,
We'll stand
nutty,
up to Cuban coffee.
creamy finish. Oh,
Actually,
man.
speaking of coffee, Chris Colter, one of our followers, chimed in that first of all, he says the 262 Allegiance is unlike any other blend I've ever had. And he says that though the Revere is my favorite 262, it goes so well with coffee and bourbons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris is good people. He helped me move recently, actually.
Mm.
Really nice guy.
Now, so I lost my train of thought there for a second. I was going to go back to Ryan because you brought up the point of the what was it, the candy bar? What do you call it, Ryan?
And the chocolate bar.
The chocolate bar. Did you get any blowback from the industry about how the effect of that might have on our issues with the FDA? Did anybody give you crap for that?
Surprisingly not, because I did it in such a small quantity.
Okay.
Like there was only a few hundred of them.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remain a little bit more conscious of that in the future, because I don't want to bring more attention to the industry. But
yeah, I mean, you see this all the time, and my personal opinion on that, and I'll go public, is you know what, you can't buy a cigar unless you're 21 years old in this country. You got to walk into a shop. The shop self-pleases itself. You're not going to find some 16-year-old walking into a shop because you and I will escort them out before the owners do. All right. That's just how it is. Right. This is what we do. This is our community. We take care of it. All right. So having something like that on a shelf to me is not going to be enticing to a 16-year-old kid because they're not there to see it. All right. Only we're there to see it. So
True. Yeah. If you got someone walking in that shouldn't be there, I mean, the regulars, oh my gosh, they'll zero in ASAP. So
and if we let our guard down, to the point of where we submit to the fact that, oh yeah, well, maybe the 16-year-old, then we've lost a huge battle because the innovation and the marketing that you guys put into stuff has to be free flowing. It's got to be, you can say whatever, like you said, morning wood. All right. So, I mean, we have names of cigars today, and it's good you came up with that because I can't tell you the number of times I've had young cigar brand owners send me something, and I'll be like, did you do a trademark check on this? And they're like, well, we looked around, we didn't see anything. I said, you didn't do a search, did you? Because this one here, I could take this one out. See, look, same kind of name. You can't do that, right?
yeah.
So, but having morning wood, I don't know if anybody had morning wood.
Yeah, if we were ever asked to C&D on that, it'd be a quick, brush under the rug. It was just for NFG, having fun, so. But yeah.
I'm going to take another quick break. I want to go through what's new in news and reviews on Stogie Press this week. And then when we come back, we'll continue to dig a little more into 262. So this week on Stogie Press, put out 3 reviews this week. The first one is from a company called Family X Loyalty. Family X Loyalty, they have a lot of cigars where all the names are based off of Norse mythology and wolves. All right. So if that's kind of their jam. And it's all about family being together. And it's like they're 2 brothers of the leaf. They're not blood brothers, but they're true brothers of the leaf. They got together to form this company. And this particular cigar, this came out this year. It's a Nicaraguan cigar. They make these over at Blackbird, and this is a Vitola. It's a Connecticut wrapper with a Creole 98 binder and a Corojo Nicaraguan filler. And I got some really nice notes out of this. There was a bitterness note in here a little later, but it kind of mixed in with the cocoa. So you got bitter, you got butter, you got cocoa, you got fruit. There was some mineralness to it, some natural sweetness, nut, pepper, and savory spice. Really nice looking Robusto. They also come in Grand Toros and a pipe size. And the reason they have pipe size is because they actually sell these cool pipes that you can put the nub in and smoke. It's not a pipe that goes up. It's just a straight holder, but they have these really absolutely gorgeous pipes that they make on the side through another affiliate company. So good looking cigar, nicely packed, nicely bunched. Ash is beautiful on this, coming down. Just look at the ash. Look at this thing. It's just, God, I love it when it does that. Really, I really do. Drop with a nice cone. So overall, this one's a 94 in my book. Beautiful flavors for the most part running through. The next one from a company called Clout Cigars. So Clout Cigars stands for Cigar Lovers Openly Unite Together. That's their thing. So this is Clout Cigars. This is their signature blend. I did do their select one on the Toro a few months ago, came in at a much higher rating. This particular one came in at 88. This is Dominican Republic cigar. It's a Cameroon wrapper with a San Andreas binder and a Nicaraguan and Brazilian filler. Lot of leaves, a lot of dimensions in these leaves, but the problem was they didn't work. The biggest problem with this cigar was it was just unbalanced. It started in with I'll go down in here. I'll show you the burn. Burn was nice. Had a really nice burn. Don't get me wrong in the burn. Burn was good, but had this pepper and a sour coffee note to begin with. And then that kind of got toned down with some creaminess. It was like, okay, it's finding its way. I'm okay with that. I get it. And then a bit of cocoa powder came in, which is cool. Then a little fruit and some cream. And then it got into this grapefruit bitterness. And that grapefruit bitterness, you know, when you get those that have like that IPA hoppy-ish taste to it, this was kind of too much. It was like it was overpowering the palate. And it was killing all of that resting notes that you might have had from before. And then it shifted into a different dimension, and then it started to have some other little issues in the end. So flavor-wise, it really got hit hard on flavor, unfortunately. So this one comes in at a 98. I think maybe if it rests a little longer, maybe. But I've had these for 6 months, so I kept trying to think whether it should be ready to go or not. The last one was the K by Karen Berger, the 25th anniversary Toro. This is an absolutely beautiful cigar, beautifully made. It's made in collaboration with AJ Fernandez. Two of them worked together on this with the leaves. It's a Connecticut Habano broadleaf with a Mexican San Andreas binder and a Nicaraguan filler. This cigar was just giving me notes of caramel and chocolate, coffee and cream and fruit. There was licorice at the end. I love that note when I get that. A natural sweetness. There was pepperiness and savory spice. This thing was beautifully balanced, had a very decent burn, well-constructed box press. The only thing that this actually lost a point on is the ash. It's flaky. I don't like flaky ashes. It's part of the experience. I don't want ash all over me when I smoke a cigar. So unfortunately, that's where it got dinged, was on that. But other than that, it's a $16 cigar. I believe it's box worthy at $16, and it had a pleasant and consistent experience across multiple samples. I smoked 3 of these to make sure, and each one performed the same way. So this one comes in at a 95. I really love this. I think you will too if you haven't had it. When it comes to the news this week, Risti over at Jossum Kral, they're releasing their annual Sota Kokar for Sweden. They do this every year. So this is a blend that they produce just for a shop over in Sweden. Protocol Cigars has announced their Lore Part 2, which is another collaboration with the Ometer Cigar Company in Oklahoma City. They get first dibs on this, and then eventually it goes up for sale, and usually they sell out very quickly because it's a short run. Swedish Tobacco came out with La Gloria Cubano, their new Series S line. Jossum Kral also has announced the release with the Black Lion Luxuries. So this is part of the Black Lion Luxuries Club. So they did an exclusive cigar for them. So he's been announcing a lot of his small exclusives. You can always get them if you belong to these different clubs. I guess you promote those. La Gloria Cubano is getting ready to release a consumer-focused cigar. That consumer-focused cigar is one where they went out and took a lot of feedback. This is something new I've seen in the industry. I think it's cool. Get the feedback and then produce a cigar that the consumer panels that you worked with kind of vote in and say good to go. And then lastly, we have put out the show from last week with Osvaldo Morales from OM Cigars. So that's the news and reviews on Stogie Press for this week. So let's go through the 262 crew. We'll start with Madison. So Madison, like, how long have you been smoking cigars?
Legally since probably 2012. I smoked a little bit in college, but pretty poor college kid, couldn't really afford too many. So I kind of went on hiatus there. When I got back from College Station to Dallas, it was a good friend of mine, Shafiq Tavani, and his sister Sheila. They would drag me out to Denton, and we would smoke cigars. Gosh, every weekend, every chance we could get, and that brought me back into it. But man, I've been lifting smokes from our friends, like fathers and whatnot. God, for the longest time. Probably mid 2000s, give or take. But to actually sit down with a cigar and actually notice it, I would say 2012, 2013.
So a good
when I
10
actually-
years of palate
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, and I mean, I love smoking pretty much everything under the sun. Love trying everything out there, and but yeah, I would say pushing pretty close to 10 years or so.
How about you, Gabriel?
Oh, geez. We're pushing about 20 years now. Pretty much started as soon as I could. Originally learned to smoke pipes back when the tobacco store in the mall could still teach you how to smoke a pipe in the mall, to date myself. And then quickly realized I'm kind of lazy, and cigars are a lot easier to smoke. So, so I switched to cigars pretty quickly there, and I've been smoking them ever since. Yeah, just enjoyed the heck out of it. I started out with a Monte Cristo Platinum that my dad had in his drawer. He tried to sit me down with a cigar and a young 10-year-old Scotch, trying to break me of smoking and drinking. It backfired. No, unfortunately, I do both quite a lot, but it's been a fun journey.
And Ryan, I guess you started when you were like in the womb or something.
Basically, no. I've got about the same as Gabe, a little over 20 years. Just started as something I did when I got paid. I'd buy a cigar, and I started off with Macanudos, and before I knew it, I was looking at LFDs and Tatuaje had started out soon, a little bit after that, and like the smaller brands. But yeah, over 20 years.
Has anybody, when you were growing up, have a grandfather or an uncle or whatever that was hanging around you all the time smoking cigars like we would do on a regular basis?
So
Gabe.
my grandfather, for sure, both pipes and cigars. Pipes at first and cigars later on. Kind of the same reason. He just got tired of packing the pipe at a certain point.
I look forward to that. My grandkids, when they get older, and someday in the future they'll say, "Yeah, my grandfather." And I always knew my grandpa was around because there was cigar smoke.
Yeah. Oh, same for sure.
How about you, Madison? Any?
Yeah, I had a couple uncles pipe and cigar. They didn't do it too much, like say at like family occasions and whatnot. But if we were outside, if they were tending to their garden, yeah, they'd pack up a pipe or light a cigar. It was mainly around a lot of it through my friends' fathers. That's where that's where it first caught my eye. And when you're probably around high school age, man. I had this one friend, his dad, man, traveling salesman, would bring back all these Cubans and whatnot. So it had this aura to it that we were like, let's fool them. We'll replace it with like a Walgreens version of like an Optimo, and we'll take this Cuban and not tell them. But yeah, no, I've had my fair share of being around it, plenty. Yeah.
And Ryan?
I'm the first in my family. I didn't grow up.
You're the
with anybody
first in
smoking
your
cigars.
family.
Yes,
Wow. Wow. Considering that there's a Rodriguez in Key West has been doing it forever.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's some that are like way down the family line, but as far as like my immediate family, no.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, welcome to the brotherhood.
Yeah.
As for me, I've been smoking cigars for 42 years, so something like that. Been a long, long
Yeah,
time.
I got a question for you, Jimmy. Where'd you get the name Boston Jimmy? I mean, I want to say it's pretty obvious, but I would love to hear that story if there's one.
It's not as obvious as it sounds. All right, I know it sounds it, but you got to mix New York and Boston together. So I grew up in New York on Long Island. I lived in a little village outside the Queens Nassau border. I was right on the border of New York City, but it's Queens. And I went to college in Brooklyn, and when I graduated college, my first job was in Massachusetts, about 25 miles west of Boston. And I went up there with a Yankee hat on. I would sit at the bar, the local tavern, and, everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, nope, the Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. And then my newfound friends at work, we went out to Fenway Park once. I went in there with a Yankee hat on, and yeah, there wasn't physical abuse, but there was mental abuse, And I was like, okay. The next time we went back, I didn't have my Yankee hat on, and I fell in love with Fenway Park. I fell in love with the Boston Red Sox. I thought this team reminded me of my dad's failing Mets for the most part, except for '86 when they beat the Red Sox in a World Series. But I was just like, grew up in a Mets household. This kind of seems more real. This seems more close, and you're young. And so I put the Red Sox hat on, and I moved back to New York 3 years later. And all my friends and people, they made fun of me. They called me Boston Jimmy. They said, hey. And not only that, but it only took me 3 years to lose all my R's. So like things like car and park still come out, car and park.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of that. I got a little more of New York in me because anybody from New York will ping me for New York before they ping me for Boston, right? But outside of that area, when you lose the R's, you immediately start sounding Bostonian as opposed to New York. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's the story. That's how I did it. Then I moved down here to Florida in '87. And, well, I came down with a bunch of New Yorkers that still called me Boston Jimmy. And here I am. I'm making a couple shekels on the name. So I did okay. I'm having fun with it. So that's the story. Thank you for asking. You're not the first, and you will not be the last. Usually at this point, we get into kind of a little more of a lightning round, just kind of really fast answers. I'll ask one that my co-host would normally ask everybody. If you were going to smoke a cigar, not yours, meaning not 262 or Ohana, so you can't pick Ohana, what would it be? We'll start with Madison.
Crowned heads, four kicks, pyramid. Crowned heads is my favorite brand. I mean, outside of 262 and Ohana, I smoke everything crowned heads. And if I can't get a Monty number 2, I'm going for that.
All right. How about you, Ryan?
Oh, I'm Tatawahe all the way.
Okay.
I've learned a lot from Pete Johnson, and he's mentored me quite a bit. So I'm all the way Tatawahe.
Right on. And how about Gabriel?
Probably also be a Tatawahe, specifically a Frankenstein. If I can get my hands on one, I'm always going to smoke that.
And for me, since we're going around the table, I'll give mine.
Yeah.
I smoke too many cigars from so many different places. Some are really awesome, some really are not. But if I walk into a humidor and I scan that and I'm like, God, man, I smoked everything in here. Like, what do I want? If I see a La Roma de Cuba Mi Amor, I'm taking that cigar. I love that cigar. It's been consistent for every year that it's been out. Burns well, tastes well, and it doesn't break the bank. So that's my pick on the cigar.
There you go.
What was the most memorable cigar experience you ever had? We'll start with Gabriel.
And for me, we've been smoking for a little while. My buddy got one of those Cigar of the Month clubs, and we got the Man of War Armada, and he had two of them. So he brought me over. Knew it was supposed to be about a $30 cigar, so I brought a good bottle of scotch, and we sat down and smoked that cigar. And I think for me, that was one of the first experiences that I had where I was like, man, I think this is part of my ritual. You know, like Will Smith at the end of Independence Day. If things go right, I got to have a cigar. And that cigar was kind of the turning point for me where I really began to enjoy a lot of the notes, a lot of the experience, the quality burn that you get with the premium cigar versus just kind of picking up whatever cigar. It didn't matter before that.
About you, Madison?
Well, it would probably be the time that I spent at Michael's Euless. There's a fellow that worked there. His name's Tracy Spence. And it was memorable for me because in the year 2013, I'd spend almost every day in that shop. And for the most part, I couldn't really afford too many of the facings. And yeah, Tracy, he threw me a bone. He would also, teach me about everything under the sun that had to do with cigars. I probably asked him 1,001 questions, and he never ran me off. He never hustled me. He never, he was always real patient, really, just informative and whatnot. And it stuck with me for a long, long time. Still does. But yeah, I would say that's probably the most memorable. It's not being hustled by, someone that could easily take advantage of you because you don't really know what you're doing. And yeah, everything I learned from them. And pay it forward to people when they need it as well.
What about you, Ryan?
Mine would be the Cohiba Genio 5 when they first came out, the Cuban. I went in with a friend. We bought a box and went to a shop and smoked one, and it was a little bit strong for me, so I ended up turning green and going home a little bit early. And I remember. Well, that left a pretty long-lasting mark on me. Love those cigars now, but I wasn't ready for it back then.
And my most memorable, and then though I have many of them, but my most was I was doing business in Germany. So I was going back and forth every 2 weeks. I'd be in Germany for 2 weeks, back for a week, and I was staying in Nuremberg, Germany. And right in the city center, there was a Casa de Habanos house there, which was a kind of a membership environment. But they let me in one night because I was just traveling, no fee. And then they liked me. So every time I came back, they always let me in. I was in there like 2-3 nights a week, easily over 2 weeks, maybe 4 nights a week on weekends. And the last trip I made over, I asked the bartender, I said, and the tobacconist, I go, this is my last trip here. I don't know if I'm coming back again because I got other projects. So what is the best Cuban cigar you have in that humidor? And he comes out with a Don Alessandro Vegas Robania double Corona, like this, right? It's like 7.5 inches easily. And it was expensive. I mean, it was probably, and I'm talking good 10, maybe 12, probably 12 years ago at least. That thing was like 30 euros, 35 euros, something like that. Okay. And the exchange rate wasn't in our favor. So that was like a $50 cigar. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do this. And I cut that thing and lit it up. 3 hours of just absolute flavor. I mean, swirling and mixing and just like, like you're creating a cooking recipe in your palate. It's just giving you everything. And the burn was pristine. I mean, it wasn't a single jag on the line, and it was thin. And I'm like going, oh my God, this is so free. It's 3 hours. And I'll never forget that. I actually wrote a poem when I was there about an ode to Nuremberg, talking about that cigar. I have it up on Stogie Press somewhere on one of my site visits. And that was probably my most memorable. And I would say that is the best cigar I ever had in my life. And of course, that was the one the old man himself rolled before he passed away. That was, he personally rolled that cigar. Okay.
That's awesome.
I definitely want to read that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you go on Stogie Press and you go to the travel articles, there'll be one in there for Germany. There's a Germany one where it talks about Nuremberg, and in that I wrote this cool poem. It's called the.
Oh yeah,
Well, you can just search "Ode to Nuremberg" and you'll see it pops up.
I'm definitely gonna check that out.
So,
The way you described it already has me hooked. So I was like, I gotta check it out, finish it.
but the problem is, so let me just go quick around the board. You can go thumbs up, thumbs down, okay, or sideways. Really simple. Cuban cigars, the same as they were 10 years ago.
No.
Is Ryan? Yeah. So 2, I'm going to go the same way. They're just not what they were. I mean, and I've
Just like
smoked
construction and quality assurance. Just not there.
horrible.
Not there.
You know, a box, you buy a box, you're getting 3 to 5 that are plugged.
At least.
Yeah, that's
At
true.
least, yeah.
You know, it wasn't like that. So Nicaraguan cigars up.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
Now, what's your view on Dominican cigars versus Nicaraguan cigars? So the palate in America seems to be mostly Nicaraguan, it's primarily, but yet we talk about the consumer loving Connecticut's, which I'm going to put closer to the Nicaraguan end of the spectrum. I mean the Dominican end of the spectrum versus the Nicaraguan end of the spectrum. So which one's better?
Man, that's tough. I think generally speaking, overall, Nicaraguans are going to be better, but a special Dominican is still a special cigar. And there's some guys that just do it absolutely right out there. Actually, you mentioned Blackbird Cigar Factory on one of your promos. There's a few factories out there like them that make some excellent cigars, but unfortunately, it's becoming less and less.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nicaragua for personal reasons. I mean, the majority of everything I smoke is Nicaragua. I mean, to build off Gabe, if it's a special Dominican, absolutely. Fuente, obviously, to name off the dome, but yeah, Nicaragua all the way.
You, Ryan?
I think obviously I like Nicaraguans, but Dominicans also have a lot of good cigars to offer, like the Fuente and La Flor Dominicana. So I think they have their place in the humidor.
And Lito has a way of punching
Oh, yeah.
in the face with his
Definitely.
strength. He broke the mold in the Dominican when he came out with things like double arrows and just like what?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just favor Nika over Dominican, but I mean, not to knock it by any means. Cut my teeth on LFD, so yeah, they definitely have a spot in the humi for sure. 100%.
Now, have you ever gone back and smoked some cigars that you really enjoyed in your past that you haven't had in a long time and said to yourself, what did I like about this cigar?
I definitely had that experience with the Monte Cristos. Yeah, I worked with Casa de Monte Cristo, the same parent company, for a while, so I got to smoke a lot of their cigars for free. I had a lot of experiences like that where, man, I remember smoking this 10 years ago and it came out and thinking it was the bomb, and now compared to everything else that's come out since, it's kind of just become a cigar.
Think your palate's evolved a little more too?
Exactly.
I can think of more of the opposite of a meh cigar, just because I don't really remember those. One from Crowned Heads, I wasn't a real big fan of when it dropped, and then I went back recently and smoked it, and I was like, oh, this is actually, I was clearly smoking crack back then. This is amazing. But yeah, it would have been the Four Kicks Maduro, I believe. When it dropped, I was like the odd man out. I just wasn't a fan of it. Went back recently and smoked it, and was like, okay, I'm definitely crazy. This is awesome.
You think that's also a palate evolution that you began to pick
Yeah,
up? You're picking
absolutely,
things
yeah.
up that a seasoned palate should, but an unseasoned palate doesn't appreciate what it really has to deliver.
Oh yeah. That patience with it too. I mean, there are moments when years ago I would just chain smoke, not really take my time with a puff or a draw, let it rest a little bit, pick it up, smoke again. What I was drinking, taking that to an account, whether or not I had eaten going into it, taking that into an account. But yeah, definitely maturation while smoking is a thing for sure.
When you smoke a cigar, how many times do you retrohale during the journey? And let's just say a Toro. We'll keep it simple. A Toro.
Man, a total, I'm not sure. I try to retro, man, probably probably every 3 draws that I go through the mouth, I try to retro. I
A
just
lot of them.
enjoy it. Yeah, like recently I got some of those Don Derma cigars, and they highly recommend you just retro the whole thing if you can. Um, but yeah, to take it back to Tracy Spence, the guy that was teaching me about cigars in Euless, Texas, at Michael's Tobacco, he was like, yeah, man, retro as often as possible if you can. Obviously you're gonna get I forget the phraseology of it, but the majority of the flavorings you get from a cigar are
You're gonna get rhino. You end up getting what is it, rhinorrhea. But I've
quite a bit.
I used to
Actually.
do it all the time too, and then I did a little. I was doing some studying, reading some other books that people have written about cigars that I respect, and one of the things they said, which I thought made a lot of sense, is if you retro too often, you burn your hair follicles out. They get messed up. Okay, and what you want to do is they say you want to retro about 3 times through like a Toro. All right, 4 max. And the idea is that as you're smoking it, you're getting down an inch and a half, then do a retro. And then you're going to get like, oh, wow, check out all of this extra that I have. And now your palate is already tuned into that. And and just by smoking it, you're going to start tasting that because you're already hit your palate with it as it lingers. And then you do it again, another inch and a half in, instead of every puff, because I used to do it every puff, and believe me, my nasals are all
Yeah, it's like a combo. Like whenever I blow out, I don't know, it's weird. It's so habitual at this point that yeah, I
So
do it more
everybody here can
frequently than I
retro,
realize.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So how many times have you come across somebody in a shop that doesn't know how to retrohale?
And when you watch someone try to do it and they can't, and not to poke fun or anything, but they try and they do too much too quickly. God,
Yeah, no, they don't.
it's horrible to watch.
Yeah, they're not understanding the passageways. And
Yeah,
there was a friend of mine that explained it to me. I've done it for a long time, but he was explaining how to explain it to somebody, and he says, just sit there and breathe in air. Go like this. Don't swallow the air. Just put it in your mouth. Go. And then blow it out your nose. Take the air in and blow it out your nose. And you do that about 5, 6, 7 times. And now take a little puff of smoke, keep it in your mouth, and do the same thing. Pretend it's the air. And he says it's amazing how fast somebody suddenly, and when the first time they do it, they're like,
yeah,
holy crap, what have I been missing?
yeah. Yeah, it definitely helps to have a good teacher, man. If you get somebody that more or less wants to prank you, like, it can really destroy your nostrils, man.
Oh,
Like,
hell yeah.
strength of cigar absolutely matters if it's your first time. Gosh, I've seen some folks just annihilate their nasal. I feel so awful when I see that, but it's hard not to chuckle at least because I'm like, been there, done that. It can be awesome or it can be full on hell. So
So we are beyond the hour. This has been awesome. We have plenty more we could talk about, I'm sure. But if you guys have some time sitting around for a little bit, I like to sometimes do a after show herf, and I invite people to join us if they want to. I'm going to put the Zoom link out on the feed, and they can come in and join. If you guys got to leave, that's okay too. But that's kind of how we do it. And meanwhile, I'm going to give you guys the last word. We'll start with Madison.
I just want to say thanks for having us on, man, giving us a chance to talk about 262 cigars, some Ohana cigars. And if anybody has any questions about the collaboration brand that Ryan and I are hopping into called Ohana Nui, fire them away. That's Hawaiian for big family, in respect to both of our cigar families coming together and working together. But yeah, most notably, man, thank you for having us on. Like, I've heard your name through the grapevine for years. I've actually watched a couple of episodes of Taking It to the Nub, the one that you did with Skip at PCA.
That was a good one.
I've definitely heard of you, so it was definitely an honor to come on here, man. So thank you.
Thank you. About you, Gabriel?
Yeah, man, thanks for having us. I hope we get the interesting questions for the people on 262. Definitely find us out. We got social medias on both Facebook and Instagram, with more coming. So a good place to hit us up, especially Facebook if they want to ask questions. We can point them to the underground if they want to order. And just glad to have you. It was fun meeting you just a couple weeks ago, and I'll see you again here in September.
Absolutely. Ryan?
I just have to say thank you and stay tuned. We have a lot of big things coming, so stay tuned.
I am looking forward to that. So, okay, so I want to thank you all for joining, taking your time out on a Saturday to talk about your brand, to help people understand about 262. I want to thank all the sponsors, because without them, the show is always a little bit harder to do. And I want to thank all those that are watching the show now and in the future for supporting Stogie Press, taking it to the nub.